The alien arena shook with laughter. In the center of the arena stood a single small figure. She was only 11 years old. Her name was Hannah. Her black hair was tied in a short, messy tail. Her shoes were dusty. Her clothes were simple. In her hands she held one thing that did not look simple at all. It was a samurai sword. The blade was long and slightly curved. The handle was wrapped in dark cloth where many hands had once held it. The metal itself did not shine like clean steel. It was darker, like the color of the sky before a storm. To the aliens, it looked old and useless. On the highest platform sat the alien commander. He was taller than the others, his horns longer, his eyes burning red. He pointed one claw toward Hannah and laughed so hard his chest plate shook. "This is the human champion?" he shouted. "A child with a metal stick?" Hannah did not move. She only gripped the sword tighter. At the edge of the arena, heavy doors slid open. A large armored warrior stepped out. He was a full-grown dragon alien, twice the height of a human man, covered in dark plates and glowing lines of blue energy. A battle mask hid his face. Twin blades rested on his back. The crowd cheered his name, a deep, harsh word that echoed off the walls. The warrior walked toward Hannah, each step heavy enough to shake dust from the ceiling. He looked down at her and gave a short, cruel laugh. "One swing," he said. "That is all I need." High above, alien technicians watched from behind glass screens. Their floating displays showed numbers, power levels, and movement predictions. One of them turned a scanner toward Hannah's sword, more out of habit than fear. The moment the scanner beam touched the blade, the screen exploded with red warnings. "Impossible," the technician whispered. Lines of strange symbols rushed across the glass. "The metal. It is reacting to our field. The energy is bending." The commander heard the panic in the technician's voice. His smile faded just a little. "What is it?" he demanded. "The sword," the technician said. "It is not normal human metal. It is answering us." Down in the arena, Hannah took a breath and remembered a calm old voice. "Do not shake. The sword does not need big muscles. It needs a steady heart." The armored warrior raised his arm to signal the start of the fight. The crowd roared for blood. Hannah moved. Her first step was small, almost gentle. She slid one foot forward in the sand. The sword came up, point low, like she had done 1,000 times before in practice. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then the blade caught the light. A thin line of pale glow ran from the hilt to the tip. It was not bright like fire. It was soft, like the edge of the moon. Every scanner in the arena spiked at once. Energy surge. Someone shouted from the tech room. From the sword, not from her body? The warrior charged. The ground shook as he rushed forward, armor humming, blades coming free. To the crowd, it looked like any other easy kill. To Hannah, it felt very slow. She saw the weight of his steps, timing of his arms, the path of his blades. There was fear in her chest, yes, but something else sat behind it, larger and heavier. She did not have a word for it. She only knew she would not run. She stepped to the side. Her sword arm moved in a small, clean arc. No spin, no show. Just one quiet cut, low and close to the ground. As if she were slicing a line in water, steel touched stone. A crack exploded across the arena floor. It shot out from Hannah's feet like lightning racing under the charging warrior. The sand jumped. The stone split. The great alien stumbled as the ground opened in a sharp, sudden line. One of his heavy feet slid into the crack, and his body crashed forward with a howl of metal on rock. Silence fell over the stands. The commander stood up, eyes wide. His claws gripped the rail until it bent. "Halt!" he shouted, though no one was moving now. Down below, Hannah stood very still, her sword held at her side. The glowing line along the blade slowly faded, as if it were going back to sleep. In that moment, every dragon alien in the arena understood one thing. This was no joke. The small human child was not a toy. The old samurai sword was not a metal stick. Together, they were something else, something the aliens did not yet understand. And as the commander stared down at Hannah, a cold thought entered his mind for the first time. Maybe the lesson was not for the humans. It was for them. Asterisk. Before the dragons laughed in the arena. Hannah was just a small girl in a small house on a quiet human colony. The house stood at the edge of a dusty town. Mining machines crawled over the ground like tired insects. Cargo ships rumbled overhead. People came home with heavy steps and heavier faces. Inside that house, on a plain wall above a simple wooden table, hung a sword. It was a samurai sword. Long, slightly curved. The metal was not bright silver. It was a darker shade, like storm clouds before rain. When the room was dark and the window was open to the night, Hannah sometimes thought the blade carried a faint line of light, like a tiny star that refused to die. Her grandfather called it the old friend. When Hannah was younger, she would sit on the floor and stare at it until her legs went numb. The sword felt important, even though it never moved. One evening, she could not hold her question in anymore. "Grandfather," she said, "why do you keep an old sword? Nobody uses swords now. We have guns and ships." Her grandfather's face was full of wrinkles and oil stains from work, but his eyes were bright and sharp, because people forget too quickly, he said. "This sword remembers." He stood up and lifted it from the wall with both hands, slow and careful. The air in the room seemed to grow still as the metal left its hook. "This is a samurai sword," he told her. "It came from Earth. Many hands carried it before us. Soldiers, protectors, fools, heroes." Hannah watched the blade, holding her breath. "But the metal inside it," he added, "came from the sky." "From the sky?" Hannah repeated. Her grandfather nodded. "Long ago, a rock from space fell to our world. People found strange metal inside, harder than anything they knew. They used it to forge this blade. Some say it remembers gravity, light, even fear." Hannah frowned. "How can metal remember?" He turned the handle toward her. "Not like a brain," he said softly, "but it answers to the one who holds it. It changes when the heart is ready." He placed the sword into her small hands. It was heavy, but not crushing. The cloth on the handle was worn smooth from many fingers. It felt strangely warm, like it had been waiting. Hannah looked down the length of the blade. For a single heartbeat, she saw a soft shimmer slide along the edge, like moonlight moving over water. She blinked. It was gone. "Teach me," she said. The word surprised even her. Her grandfather studied her face for a long moment. Then he smiled, slow and proud. "Very well," he said. "We will see what the sword remembers about you." Every evening after that, when other people were resting or watching screens, Hannah and her grandfather went behind the house. The ground there was flat and hard. The sky above was wide and full of tiny stars and the dark bellies of passing ships. He taught her how to stand. Feet apart, knees soft, back straight. He taught her how to breathe. In slowly through the nose, out slowly through the mouth. "If your breath is calm," he said, "your hands will listen." He showed her how to watch an opponent. "Do not stare at one point," he said. "See the whole body. See where the weight rests. See the next step before it lands." At first, Hannah was clumsy. The sword tip dragged lines in the dirt. She tripped over her own feet. Her arms burned. Her shoulders ached. Sometimes her hands were so tired she could not hold her spoon at dinner. More than once she thought, "I can't do this. I'm too small." But every time she looked at her grandfather, she saw the way he treated the blade. Gentle, respectful, as if it was something alive and dear. When he spoke about the sword, there was love in his voice. She did not want to give up on that. So she tried again and again, slowly. The cuts grew cleaner. Her steps grew quieter. Her breathing matched the rhythm of her movements. She was still small, still young. But the sword began to feel less like a heavy tool and more like an extra part of her body on some very quiet nights. When she moved just right, the blade glowed with a thin line of pale light. "Why does it do that?" she asked. Her grandfather only smiled. It remembers the sky it came from, he said, and it is starting to remember you. Then, one day, the sky changed. The alien ships arrived without warning. Giant shadows slid over the town. Engines screamed. Windows rattled. People ran into the streets and stared upward with open mouths. The ships looked like iron dragons, all metal scales and glowing eyes. Their bellies opened. Armored figures dropped to the ground in tall pillars of white light. Their voices were harsh through their translators. They spoke of subjects, workers, and tests. They called humans small animals with clever hands. Human soldiers tried to fight. Guns flashed. Rockets flew. The alien shields turned bullets into dust and fire into harmless mist. Human weapons were toys to them. Hannah's grandfather did not reach for a gun. He took the sword from the wall and pressed it into Hannah's hands. "Listen," he said. His voice was calm, but his jaw was tight. "They will not understand us. Not now. But one day, someone must show them who humans truly are. This sword has seen many wars. It will see one more. Why me?" Hannah whispered. The sword felt heavier than ever. "Because you do not swing it with hate," he answered. "You swing it with promise." The door crashed open. Aliens filled the room, tall and bright with shield light. They laughed when they saw an old man and a little girl with a sword. One of them pointed at Hannah. "Cute," the translator said. "The commander enjoys games. We will take this one." Cold hands grabbed her arms. The sword stayed in her grip. No one bothered to take it away. To them, it was just a strange toy, as they dragged her toward the waiting ship. Hannah twisted to look back. Her grandfather stood in the doorway, small against the tall metal figures. He raised 2 fingers to his forehead in a quiet salute, the same way he always ended their lessons. His lips moved around a single word: remember. The ship doors closed with a heavy hiss. Now, in a cold cell of the alien flagship, Hannah sat on the floor with the sword across her knees. The metal walls hummed with far engines. Somewhere beyond them, she could hear the dull roar of a distant crowd, already laughing. Already waiting, she remembered the dusty yard, the stars above. And her grandfather's voice. Hannah set her palm flat on the dark blade. "I will not let them laugh at us," she whispered. For a moment, the metal under her hand felt warm, as if it had heard her, as if it agreed. Asterisk. The cell door opened with a sharp hiss. 2 tall dragon aliens stood there, armor shining with blue lights. Their eyes were flat and bored. For them, this was just part of their job. One pointed at Hannah with the tip of his claw. "Stand," his translator said. "The commander wants entertainment." Hannah rose slowly, the samurai sword still in her hands. No one had tried to take it. They did not think they needed to. The aliens led her down a long metal hallway. The floor shook under her feet from the sound of thousands of voices above. The noise grew louder with every step, like a storm behind a wall. Finally, they reached a tall gate. Panels slid open. Blinding white light rushed in. The roar of the crowd hit her like a wave. The arena was huge. High stone walls, reinforced with alien metal, rose all around her. Above them, rows and rows of dragon aliens filled the stands. Their scales shone in different colors. Their eyes glowed. Some waved banners. Most just laughed. From here, Hannah could see the commander on his high platform. He lounged in a metal throne, horns tipped with gold. Cape spread behind him. His voice boomed through the speakers. "People of the Empire," he cried, "today we test the courage of a small animal that calls itself human." The crowd screamed with joy. Hannah stood in the center of a flat, sandy floor. The sword rested in her hands, point low. Just like her grandfather had taught her, she thinks that old blade can save her, the commander continued. But we will start simple. We do not need a warrior yet. We will use toys. He snapped his fingers. Across the arena, several round doors slid open in the walls. From each door floated a metal sphere the size of a grown man's head. Their surfaces were smooth and dark, with a single, glowing red eye in the middle. They spread out over the arena like lazy insects. Training drones. One alien in the tech room said, almost laughing. Low-level targeting? Basic lasers. This will be short. Panels under the sand clicked and shifted. The flat floor began to move. Walls rose up all around Hannah, tall and smooth. Some were clear energy barriers, humming softly. Others were thick blocks of stone. The arena became a maze of sharp turns, dead ends, and narrow passages. The drones floated effortlessly above the new walls. Red eyes scanning. Hannah's heart pounded. She could not see the commander anymore. She could not see the full crowd. She could only hear them, a deep echoing roar over her head. Begin, the commander's voice ordered. A high beep cut through the air. The drones fired. Thin beams of bright light shot down, burning lines into the sand near her feet. The first shot barely missed her toes. The heat made her jump back. Hannah's breath caught in her throat. She wanted to run. She wanted to scream. For a moment, fear filled her chest so tight she could not think. Then she heard a memory in slowly through the nose, out slowly through the mouth. Her grandfather's voice. She forced herself to breathe. One long breath in, one long breath out. Another beam fired. This time she moved before it hit, stepping behind a stone block. The laser hit the rock and left a smoking black mark. Watch the whole body, her grandfather had said. See the pattern? See the next step before it lands. Hannah peeked out. The drones did not fire wildly. They followed her movements. Every time she showed herself, 3 red eyes turned toward her and charged up. Aiming where they thought she would be, she tested them. She stuck one foot out, then pulled it back. A beam hit the ground where her leg had been. They were fast, but not smart. They learned a little, but not enough. Hannah moved through the maze, using the stone walls as cover. Lasers chased her, cutting the air, burning the sand. She rolled, ducked, and jumped. More than once, a beam came so close she felt the heat on her skin. Up in the tech room, one alien adjusted his scanner. Her body strength is low, he said. Heart rate high. Normal fear response. Another tech looked at the readings for her sword. Those numbers were not normal. There is something strange here, he said slowly. The weapon is reacting to the energy field in the arena. It is pulling it. Metal does not pull light, the first one said. This one does, the second replied, down below. Hannah knew nothing about numbers. She only knew she was getting tired. Her legs burned. Her lungs hurt. She could not run forever. Another blast tore a chunk out of the stone near her head. Dust rained down into her hair. She gripped the sword in both hands. If your breath is calm, her grandfather had said, your hands will listen. She closed her eyes for 1 second and breathed. When she opened them, she did not feel like a mouse in a maze anymore. She felt like a blade being drawn. The next time a drone's red eye flared, she stepped into the open. The beam shot toward her chest. She swung. The sword cut across the path of the laser. For a moment, time slowed. The beam hit the edge of the blade. Instead of passing through, the light bent like water hitting a rock. Part of it bounced away at a new angle. It struck another drone in its eye. The second drone exploded in a shower of sparks. The crowd gasped. Hannah stared at her sword. The blade was glowing again, brighter than before. A thin, pale light flowed along its edge. She did not understand how it worked. She did not have to. She only knew one thing. It was not just metal. It was listening. More beams came. Hannah moved, her sword flashing. She was still small, still scared. But now she had something the drones did not. She could learn. She watched where each beam came from. She guessed how it would travel. She twisted her wrist, angled the blade, and sent the light back into the sky or into other drones. One by one, the machines fell smoking to the ground. The last drone tried to flee upward. Hannah took a deep breath, stepped forward, and drew one clean line through the air. The beam bounced from her sword, climbed along the curve, struck the drone right in its red eye. It went dark. Silence fell over the arena. The maze walls sank back into the floor. The energy fields faded. All that remained was a small human girl standing alone in the middle of broken metal. Her chest rose and fell. Sweat ran down her face. The sword in her hands glowed softly, like it was proud. High above, the commander stared down, his smile gone. For the first time, some of the dragons in the crowd stopped laughing for the first time. They felt something new. Doubt. Asterisk, the broken drones were gone. The smoke had settled. Hannah was still there. She stood in the center of the arena, breathing hard, sword in both hands. Sweat ran into her eyes. The faint glow along the blade looked tired, but it had not gone out. High above, the commander no longer smiled. The human tricks were amusing, he said into the speakers. But games are over. Bring me the champion. A tall gate on the far side of the arena opened. Out stepped a giant dragon warrior. Black armor wrapped his body like stone. A wide, round device sat on his left arm, humming with blue light. In his right hand burned a long spear of thick energy. The crowd shouted one name again and again. This was their undefeated legend. He walked to the center and stopped a few steps from Hannah. His mask slid back with a hiss, showing a scarred, scaled face and sharp golden eyes. "I am Arkin," he said through the translator. "Champion of the Dragon Empire." Hannah's legs ached. Her arms were heavy, but she lifted her chin. "I am Hannah," she answered. "From Earth." High above, the commander cut in. "Arkin, there will be no mercy. Kill her. Show the Empire how weak humans are." Arkin's jaw tightened once. Then he raised his shield arm. A round wall of blue light sprang to life in front of him. The air buzzed. Sand shifted under Hannah's feet. The signal flashed. He moved. For someone so large, Arkin was fast. He crossed the space between them in only a few steps. The shield slammed down toward her like a falling door. The spear flashed around its edge, aiming for her chest. Hannah threw herself sideways. The shield hit the ground where she had been. The spear sliced past, leaving hot air against her cheek. He did not stop. Shield, spear. Shield, spear. Each move heavy, controlled, practiced. He had fought in many arenas. He knew how to use his weight, his reach, his protection. Hannah could barely keep ahead of him. She tried once to block the shield with her sword. The impact rang down her arms like a bell. Pain shot into her shoulders. The sword stayed in her hands only because she refused to let go. She could not match his strength, so she stopped trying to push against it. Instead, she watched. She saw the way his feet dug deep into the sand before each rush. She noticed how his shoulder turned. Just before he thrust the spear, she felt a rhythm in his steps, like a drum beat under the noise of the crowd, and then she saw it. Low on his left side, near the bottom of the shield, there was a narrow gap where armor met joint. Just a small opening, close to the ground, to hit it. She would have to move toward him, not away. The next time he charged, Hannah did not run back. She ran in. At the last instant, she dropped to her knees and slid beneath the edge of the shield. Sand burned her legs. The bottom of the glowing barrier passed just above her head. Her sword flashed. Sideways, the blade slipped through the small gap and kissed the joint. There was a sharp crack. The shield flickered once, its light stuttering like a candle in wind. Arkin grunted and stumbled a half step. Then his shield steadied again. Hannah rolled away, heart pounding. It can break, she thought. If I hit the same place again? Her Khan came harder now. His strikes were less patient, more driven. The commander's angry voice pushed him on. Crush her. Stop playing. Hannah's lungs burned. Her legs felt like stone. But each time the shield swept past, she tried to dive in low and cut at that same weak spot. The light flickered longer. Hairline. Cracks formed along the shield's edge. Finally, after one more desperate slide and one more clean strike, it broke. Blue sparks burst outward and vanished. The humming stopped. The round wall of light disappeared as if it had never been. The device on Archon's arm hung dark and broken. The arena went quiet for the first time. Their champion stood unshielded. He stared at his dead shield, then at Hannah, his spear lowered just a little, in shock more than choice. In that pause, Hannah moved. She stepped onto his lowered arm, as if it were a ramp. Her foot pushed off his forearm, then his shoulder. For one heartbeat she was above him, the whole arena below as she dropped behind him. Her sword drew a quick line down already weakened armor. Plates of black metal split and fell into the sand. Archon turned. Before he could lift his spear, Hannah was there again, right in front of him. The point of her glowing blade rested gently against the thick, scaled skin of his throat. No one in the arena moved. The crowd held its breath on the high platform. The commander leaned forward, eyes wild. "Do it," he screamed. "Kill him. Show them human strength. Kill." The shout rolled around the stands. Thousands of voices joined the call. Kill. 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 Archon did not move. His chest rose and fell. His eyes stayed on Hannah's. "It is our way," he said, voice low. "The winner kills. The loser dies. That is how we prove who is strong enough to live." Hannah's hands shook. She could feel the beat of his pulse under the tip of the blade. Her arms were tired. Her whole body wanted to sink to the ground and sleep. The easiest thing in the world would be to push. One small motion, one cut, and everything would stop. Her grandfather's words came back like a quiet wind. "Anyone can strike," he had told her. "Real strength is in the choice not to." Hannah looked at Archon, at the crowd, at the commander who wanted blood, and at the sword that had carried so many lives before hers. Then she took a slow breath. She lifted the blade away from his throat. She stepped back and she bowed. Not a joke. Not a trick. The same simple bow she had given her grandfather. After every training match in the dusty yard behind their house, gasps broke across the stands. The commander stared, speechless. Archon watched her for a long, still moment, then he let his spear fall into the sand. The greatest warrior of the dragon. Empire went down on one knee in front of a human child. He bowed his head to her, not to his commander, to her, for the skill that had beaten him, for the mercy that had spared him. All around, dragons stared, not knowing what to call the feeling crawling up. Inside their chests, it was not just fear, it was something far more dangerous, respect, and that scared them most of all. Asterisk, for a long moment. The arena was frozen. Hannah stood with her sword lowered. Archon still knelt on one knee in the sand, his broken spear beside him. Dust floated slowly through the hot air. Thousands of dragons watched in silence. On the high platform, the commander's claws scraped the railing. "Why did you stop?" His voice boomed. "You had him." "Why?" Hannah's chest rose and fell. Her muscles trembled from the fight, sweat stinging her eyes. But when she spoke, her voice did not shake. "Because I already won," she said. The translator threw her words out in the harsh dragon tongue. They echoed around the stands. Dragons glanced at each other. That answer did not fit any rule they knew. The commander slammed his fist down. "Winning means he dies," he shouted. He stabbed a claw toward Archon. "He is the loser. He is nothing. Finish him." A few in the crowd tried to start the old chant. "Kill, kill, kill." The sound came thin and weak. Hannah looked down at Arca. The champion's golden eyes met hers. They were not mocking now, just tired and calm. "If you kill me," Archon said quietly, "you will please him. That is our way. The strong survive. The weak are removed." Hannah thought of her grandfather's yard, the dry dirt under her feet, the soft night wind. "Anyone can strike," he had told her. "Real strength is when you know you do not need to." She raised the sword a little and looked at the blade. Its glow was soft, almost gentle, like it was waiting. "Strength is not only who you can kill," she said. "Strength is who you can choose not to kill." Again, the translator sent her words out. This time the arena was so quiet, they seemed to hang in the air. Up above, the commander felt the silence like a slap. You think you are better than us? He shouted. You think your mercy makes you strong? You are a child. A pet. This is my arena. My law. He turned his fury on Archon. Champion, he barked. Stand, take your spear. Obey your commander. Kill the girl who shames the Empire. Every eye focused on the kneeling warrior. Slowly, Archon pushed himself to his feet. His tall shadow fell over Hannah. His hand hovered near his dropped spear. For a breath, it looked like he might pick it up instead. He left it in the sand. He turned his back to Hannah and faced the high platform, and he bowed. Not a quick nod. A deep, old bow. The kind dragons used only for those they truly honored. I cannot kill the one who spared me, Archon said. If mercy is weakness, then today, weakness defeated your strongest fighter. Perhaps we do not understand strength as well as we thought, Irina gasped. The commander's face twisted. Traitor, he hissed. You forget who owns your life. Around the stands, dragons shifted. Some looked afraid. Some looked thoughtful. They had watched their greatest warrior kneel to a human child and bowed to her choice. Up on the platform, the commander saw respect on some faces, doubt on others. He felt control slipping like sand through his claws. This could not be allowed. Enough, he said, his voice turning cold. If mercy makes you forget who rules you, then we will remind you. He pointed at Hannah. The next test will not be a game, he declared. It will be an execution. No tricks, no mercy. We will break her in front of you all. Heavy gates opened around the arena. Guards marched out, armor humming, weapons raised. They formed a ring around Hannah and Arca. One guard grabbed Hannah's arm. Another pushed Archon back as they led her away. Archon twisted to look at her one last time. In all my battles, he said, his translator softer now, no one has ever beaten me and then bowed. You did both. He pressed his fist to his chest in the old warrior sign. For that little human, you have my respect. The metal door slid shut between them with a hard clang. The roar of the arena faded into a dull echo. The hallway beyond was narrow and cold. Lights buzzed overhead. Hannah's feet slapped softly on the floor. She thought of her grandfather's last salute as the aliens took her. If there is an ending, she whispered under her breath, I will choose how I stand in it. Her fingers curled tighter around the sword. The metal felt warm against her palm, as if it understood, as if it agreed. Asterisk. The guards did not take Hannah back to her cell. They took her deeper into the ship. The hallway grew narrower. The lights turned colder. The roar of the arena faded until there was only the soft hum of engines and the heavy sound of armored boots. At the end of the corridor, a door slid open with a hiss. The room beyond was bright and sharp. Metal tables? Floating screens. Strange machines with long arms and blinking eyes. The air smelled like hot wires and bitter smoke. It was a lab. Several dragon aliens in thin armor stood waiting. They were smaller than the warriors, with long fingers stained by strange colors. Their eyes were bright and curious. Put the human there, one of them ordered. The guards pushed Hannah toward a thick metal platform in the center of the room. She stepped up onto it, still holding her sword. For this test, another scientist said, we removed the weapon. The guard reached for the sword. His claw closed around the handle. There was a sharp crack of light. He screamed and jerked back. Smoke rose from his hand. The armor on his fingers had black burn marks. Under it, his skin was blistered. The sword rejects non-human touch, a scientist muttered, eyes wide. Interesting. Another guard tried with a tool, a metal clamp attached to a rod. The moment the clamp closed around the blade, the tool snapped in half like cheap plastic. The broken piece shot across the room and hit the wall. Hannah tightened her grip. The sword felt warm and solid, as if it did not trust anyone else in the room either. The scientist stared. Fine, the lead one said at last. Let the human keep it. We only need to scan. They raised a clear energy dome around the platform. Thin beams of light shone down on Hannah and the sword from many angles. Screens lit up all over the lab with spinning shapes and fast numbers. One screen showed a simple view of Hannah's body. Low muscle mass, a scientist read. Bones within human norm, heart rate elevated but stable. Another screen showed the sword. It did not look simple at all. Strange shapes turned inside the image. Rings of light. Long lines that bent in ways normal metal did not bend. Peaks of energy where there should have been none. This structure, one scientist whispered. I have seen this pattern in old war records. Tapped on the screen, pulling up another image. A broken shard of dark metal floated in the display recorded long ago. The energy pattern was almost the same. Star metal, he breathed. From the meteor wars, we thought all of it was gone. Hannah could not read the screens, but she watched their faces. What is star metal? She asked. The translator turned her words into dragon speech. One of the scientists glanced at her, then back at the sword. Long before your people could leave their world, he said, our empire fought a war near a dying star. That star threw pieces of itself into space. We forged some of those pieces into weapons. Those weapons were powerful and dangerous. He looked uneasy. We destroyed most of them, or so we believed. He pointed at the sword in her hands. But a piece must have escaped. It fell to your world. Your people shaped it with your own art and ideas. You turned our lost war metal into this samurai sword. Hannah looked down at the blade. Meteor metal, star metal, a piece of a dying sun, now resting in the hands of an 11-year-old girl. So it is yours? She said. The scientist shook his head slowly. It was ours, he answered. Now it is something else. Look. He pressed a few controls. The image on the screen shifted. It now showed two lines that moved together. One was the sword's energy. The other was Hannah's heart rate. Every time her heart beat faster, the sword's energy jumped. Do you see? He said, it is not just metal. It answers to your feelings. Fear makes it unstable. Calm makes it clear. When you choose not to kill, the pattern becomes pure. He did not seem to like that last word, but it was the only one that fit. Another scientist stepped closer to the dome. What did the human say in the arena? He asked. She said, strength is who you choose not to kill. Why would a weapon grow stronger when its owner refuses to use it? No one answered. Hannah thought of her grandfather's stories. The first owner of this sword, it told her one night, made a promise. He swore never to use it for hate, only for protection, only for last choices. Sometimes a promise is so strong, it sinks into the metal itself. She had not really understood it then. She was starting to now, inside the dome. Hannah shifted her grip and placed both hands on the handle. She closed her eyes. She remembered the arena. The drones. The champion. The moment she could have killed him, and did not, she let herself feel. It's everything at once. Fear, anger, tiredness, but also the memory of her home. Her grandfather's soft voice, the workers in the town, the way Arkin had bowed instead of attacking her again. I don't want this sword to be about killing, she thought. I want it to be about choosing. The scientists watched the screen. The energy pattern around the sword changed. The wild spikes smoothed. The glow settled into a steady, bright shape. Not too sharp. Not too soft. Balanced. This is impossible, one of them whispered. She is. Tuning it. The lead scientist licked his lips. We must inform the commander, he said. He thinks she is only a game piece. But this sword, this girl, may be a key. If we can control star metal that listens to emotion. He did not finish the thought. He did not have to. Every dragon in the room understood power under the dome. Hannah slowly opened her eyes. The sword glowed like a small star in her hands. Not wild, not angry, just ready. She did not know the words star metal or meteor wars in their full meaning. She did not know the history written in the lab records. But she knew this. The sword was not only a tool from the past, it was a witness. It had watched many hands. It had tasted many hearts, and now it had chosen to answer hers. The door to the lab slid open. The commander stepped in. His cape trailed behind him. His eyes took in the screens, the dome, the girl with the glowing blade. "Well," he demanded, "what did you learn?" The lead scientist swallowed. "The sword is very dangerous," he said carefully. "It interacts with energy fields. It is made from old star metal, but it is bound to the human's will, to her promises." The commander's gaze locked on Hannah. "To her will," he repeated softly. "Good. Then we will test that will against something stronger than drones and shields." His smile returned, thin and sharp. "Prepare the reactor chamber," he ordered. "Let us see if her little sword can stand in front of a star." Hannah did not know what a reactor chamber was, but when she heard the word star, the sword in her hands seemed to grow heavier, as if it knew exactly what was coming. Asterisk. The weight of the reactor was short, but every step felt heavy to Hannah. The hum under her feet grew stronger, like a deep heartbeat trapped inside metal walls. She walked between two guards, the samurai sword still in her hands, its weight strangely comforting. A round door waited at the end of the corridor, covered in sharp warning marks and bright symbols. Even without reading the alien writing, Hannah could feel one clear message from it: danger. The commander stood by the door with several scientists, his red eyes locked on her small figure. "This ship is powered by a stolen star," he said, his voice calm but sharp. "We tore a piece from the sky and chained it here. We call its heart the reactor." He pointed at her sword, the corner of his mouth twisting. "You bend beams, broke our champion's shield, refused to kill. Let us see that strength before a star." Hannah thought of her dusty colony, her grandfather's hands guiding hers on the wooden practice sword. She remembered Arkin kneeling in the arena sand instead of striking again. "If your breath is calm, your hands will listen," her grandfather had told her many times. She drew in a slow breath, held it, then let it out. The great door rolled open, spilling out white gold light and a wave of dry heat. The guards pushed Hannah forward into the reactor chamber. In the center of the room floated a blazing sphere of light, held above black metal claws. Thin streams of energy reached from it into the walls and floor like glowing roots. The air hummed with a low, steady sound that she could feel in her chest. "The star heart," one scientist whispered. "Almost enough." A narrow bridge led from the doorway toward the glowing core with no rails and a long fall below. "Walk," the commander ordered from behind thick glass high above the chamber. Hannah stepped onto the bridge, sword in both hands. With every step, the heat grew stronger, soaking into her skin and clothes. The handle of the sword grew hot too, but it felt like a warm hand holding hers, not a threat. "You will strike the reactor," the commander said. "If your weapon is truly special, perhaps it will cut. If not, you burn, and we learn." Hannah stopped near the center of the bridge, as close to the star heart as she dared. The light in front of her blazed so bright she had to narrow her eyes. Power rolled off it in waves that made her feel small and fragile. For a moment, fear tried to fill every part of her. The sword pulled her thoughts downward into her hands. In the lab they had shown her how its energy followed her feelings. Calm made it clear. Hate made it wild. "I am not here to destroy," she told herself silently. "I am here to choose." Above, the scientists watched rows of numbers climbing on their screens. Someone called out, "Recording!" But Hannah let their voices fade into the background hum. She slid her feet into the stance she knew best. The one from the yard behind her house? Feet firm, knees soft, back straight, sword angled slightly down. She listened to the reactor. The hum was not just noise. It had a slow, steady beat. In, out, in, out. Almost like breathing. She matched her own breath to that rhythm. Slowly, the shaking inside her eased. The star no longer felt like an enemy. It felt tired and angry and trapped. "I don't want to break you," she thought, toward the light. "I want to give you a better path." The sword warmed in her hands. Its edge began to glow with a soft, steady, pale light, like a quiet star in the dark. Hannah took one more breath with the reactor, then she moved. It was not a wild swing. was a slow, careful cut drawn through the air just in front of the star heart. Like opening a door for a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then the star heart screamed. Light poured along the path of the blade. The blazing sphere stretched and thinned, pulled into the narrow line Hannah had traced. Instead of bursting outward, the energy followed the sword like water following a channel. Alarms rang in the control room. Red symbols flashing across every screen. Energy spike, someone shouted. Field lines bending, cried another. But the chamber did not explode. The light flowed along the sword's edge and spilled out around Hannah in a wide, bright curtain. For a moment the walls vanished behind white gold glow. Shapes formed inside the light. A blue planet. Cities and forests. Rockets rising. People falling and standing up again. A child bowing with a wooden sword. An old man smiling. Small girl stepping back from a defeated warrior. On the control screens, alien numbers and battle maps vanished. Human images took their place. Faces, hands, families. Small house with a sword on the wall. Dragons all over the ship stared. For the first time they saw humans not as pets or pests, but as a race that kept trying. In the middle of the storm of light, Hannah looked very small on the bridge. She was not burning. She was guiding. The scream of the reactor softened. The sharp pull of its power eased. Lines on the scientists' screens turned from jagged spikes into smoother curves. The ship still drew strength from the star, but the grip felt less like a fist and more like a held hand. "How is she doing this?" a scientist whispered. "She is not cutting the star," another said quietly. "She is changing where it flows." Slowly, Hannah lowered the sword. The bright curtain thinned. The pictures faded, but not completely. A blue world and a few human faces still lingered on some panels. The star heart settled into a calmer glow. The heavy hum in the chamber dropped to a softer tone. Hannah's legs shook. She dropped to one knee and used the sword to keep from falling. Her heart beat fast inside her chest. Inside the blade, the light felt steady and sure. For the first time, the captured star and the small human girl had chosen the same thing. Not destruction, direction. Asterisk, the star heart was quiet. It glowed steady in the center of the chamber. No longer screaming, just humming like a giant tired engine. Hannah stood on the narrow bridge, sword in both hands. Legs shaking but still locked above. Dragons watched from behind glass. Their screens still showed faint human images that refused to clear. A blue planet. Crowded streets. A small house. An old man holding a sword. A girl bowing. Nothing looked like a great army, yet their ship had changed for her. "The reactor pattern is different now," a scientist said. "We still have power, but the flow follows her cut, not our design." The commander's eyes burned. "I will not let my ship answer to a child," he hissed. "Open the bridge. Drop her into the core. Finish this." His voice echoed down into the hot air. 2 guards stepped into the chamber, weapons raised. Hannah's heart pounded. Fear pressed at her chest, but the sword felt warm, as if it remembered her promise more than her fear. "If I die in their hate," she thought. "That is what this blade will carry from today." Another voice cut through the ship's speakers. "Commander," it said, calm and deep. "Stop." Arkin walked into the control room, armor cracked, side bandaged, eyes clear. 3 warriors came with him and stopped at his back. "You leave your post without order?" The commander snapped. "I obeyed your order," Arkin replied. "I watched the human. She beat me and spared me. She calmed the star we chained. If we kill her now, what does that say about us?" "We are not fooled by tricks," the commander said. "We rule by strength, not by soft hearts." Arkin looked at the screens at the small shape of Earth that still glowed in the corner. "The star moved for her," he said. "None of us ever did that. For a moment she held all our lives and chose not to end them. Our law has no place for that kind of strength." The commander turned his claws toward the other warriors. "Arrest him," he shouted. "Then finish the girl." No one moved. Slowly, the warriors stepped to Arkin's side instead. They did not draw weapons. They just showed whose words they followed. A thin fear moved through the room. "The star listens to her now," Arkin said. If we kill her in anger, do you know what it will do? Day or hate, or tear free from all of us. The scientist swallowed. No one wanted to learn that answer with their own body. Arkin opened a channel to the chamber speakers. Hannah of Earth, he called. His voice rolled softly over the bridge. Hannah raised her head. You hold the sword that changed our star, he said. If we free your people and end these games, will you let this ship leave in peace? Hannah thought of cages and shouting crowds and the dusty yard behind her house. It would be simple to say no and cut again. Her grandfather's words came back like a breath. Strength is when you know you do not need to kill. She lifted the sword a little. I want humans free, she said. No more cages. No more fights for your fun. You stop taking us. You stop laughing at us. The translator threw her simple words through every hall of the ship. And if we do this? Archon asked. Then I will not cut your star again, Hannah answered. You can go. But you remember what you saw. Humans are people. Silence followed. Then claws began to move. Dragons at their stations changed commands. Weapon bays went dark, holding doors unlocked. On the colony below, gates slid open with soft clicks, and shuttles came down carrying one clear message. You are free. The commander watched, shaking with rage. This is weakness, he spat. We bow to a child. Arkin faced him. No, he said. We learn from one. The commander lunged for a control, maybe to strike the colony anyway. Arkin caught his arm and did not let go. For the safety of all, he said, you are finished. They did not kill the commander. They took his rank and his access and led him from the room under guard. For the first time, he walked the halls with no one forced to obey his voice. Soon after, a shuttle waited for Hannah in the lower bay. She stood at the top of the ramp. Starship metal under her feet, dusty ground far below. Arkin stood beside her. He bowed, the full warrior bow from the arena. Little samurai of Earth, said you showed dragons a different strong. I will remember. Hannah bowed back, sword at her side. Then do not laugh at humans anymore, she said. For the first time, Arkin smiled without cruelty. No, he replied. Not at humans, not at old swords. When Hannah stepped off the shuttle on her colony's rough ground, the air smelled like dust and home. Her grandfather waited there, eyes wet, hands shaking. He pulled her into a tight hug. For a while, there were no lessons or speeches, only their arms around each other and the quiet weight of the sword between them. That night, in their small house, they hung the blade back on the wall above the table. From the outside, it was just an old sword in a simple room. But high above, cold space, dragons spoke in low voices about the day a human child guided a star and chose mercy over revenge. And sometimes, when the house was quiet in the sky, outside the window was full of distant lights, Hannah would look up at the sword and see a thin line of brightness along the edge. Not loud, not blazing, just enough to say, I remember.